when before Spotify kind of made it more democratic and opened up their pitching tool, they would say to us that they want at least 2 weeks before the release date. So now they've kind of opened it up and they don't necessarily specify that. However, realistically, if somebody at Spotify is listening to every release that's coming through, do you think if you've submitted it the day before your release date, they're going to get a chance to listen to that, review it, look at it? I just don't see it.
You're listening to the Label Machine series, a podcast to inspire and help indie record labels and artists to build income streams for their music. I'm Nick Sadler, a music entrepreneur that has helped start and run multiple indie record labels. In this series, I'll be speaking with music industry leaders about their experience and the lessons they learned on how they both market and grow their music income. Welcome to the Label Machine series, where we discuss with successful industry professionals how artists and record labels sell music. My name is Nick Sadler, and today's guest is Nina Condron. Nina is a director at Horus Music, a music distribution company with one of the largest global reaches for music distribution. They offer marketing and promotion services and have a host of tools and white labeling services for independent record labels. Nina, how are you today?
I'm very well, thanks. Thanks for having me on.
Excellent. Now, just quickly, did I say your last name right?
Yeah, pretty much. It's definitely how it's spelt. It's often pronounced Condron, but Condron is fine. Yeah.
Condron. Oh, okay. I just wanted to double check.
Cool.
So I'm going to start off with asking how you got started in the music industry and how you got to where you are now.
Yeah, so I studied popular music at university. I went to the University of Gloucestershire. So I play guitar and sing and write my own songs myself. I thought I wanted to be an artist. And then I got to university and I still play, but I decided I wanted to kind of help artists more than try and become an artist myself. I'll always be an artist, but I think I wanted to understand how it works behind the scenes and really help artists that are probably better than me. So I did an internship for Horus, and that was about 7 years ago now. And when I started, the company was quite small, and over the years I've seen the company sort of grow, and it's been really nice to be a part of that kind of that flow, that mission. And yeah, just started from there. So I went from doing my internship to doing business development for about 3 years. And then last year I was promoted to director. So when I started, there was about 4 of us. We're now a team of 17 all around the world. So
17. Wow. So speaking about Horus Music, what do you want to give us a rundown of the main activities there?
Yeah, sure. So there's lots of different distributors kind of either sit in a different way of working. They either kind of only really work directly with artists, or they only really work mainly with labels. We kind of sit across everything. We do a bit of everything. So we have the website where independent artists can sign up, and they have their music delivered everywhere. They get 100% of the rights back, and they just pay a yearly subscription to us. And we have the same for labels, so unlimited distribution, but you have label profiles, and it means that you can go in to check out each individual artist is getting on.
Yep.
And then we also have the label services side of the business. So we work with labels and also artists, but those that we really kind of want to get behind and push, and that are at that point in their career where we think that they could benefit from getting on to some of these playlists and are kind of at that stage where they're ready to take the next step. So we have that where we work with people as well. And then finally, we also offer white label solutions, as you mentioned. And that's more for like huge companies that don't offer distribution services, that might be interested in basically licensing our technology in order to offer distribution services to artists and labels.
So would that be, for people who don't know white labeling, is that if I'm, say, a management company and I've got 50 artists on my book, and occasionally we just want to put out the music ourselves and not have to bother someone else, we might come to someone like you to do a white label? Is that how it works? Or
yeah, it's basically you can use our services to resell distribution packages. So we'll give any kind of company 100% of the royalties back, and then they could maybe decide to work with a label and get them on board and take a percentage, or they could charge artists for distribution services. So people who've got kind of different distribution kind of models and want to
so I could just set up,
services.
say, the label machine distribution,
yeah.
and you would be the technology on the back end.
That's it, yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. That's good to know. Must remember that for the future.
Yeah.
And just with Horus Music, where are you guys? You said you're now around the world. Where are your different offices now?
So the main offices that we've got is in the UK, obviously. That's where we're kind of headquartered. But then our kind of second biggest space would be in India. That's obviously where me and you kind of met. So
yep.
And we're also in the process of setting up offices in South Korea and in China. So they'll be the kind of the next big places that we're looking into across Asia. And then also in Nigeria. So we're really interested in the African market as well.
Wow. So before we get on to the kind of the different those markets you're expanding into, who are some of the most successful artists you've worked with that some of the listeners might know?
So we work with a bunch of different kind of labels as well as artists. Recently, so we work with a lot of big Indian artists, obviously, from having the company based there. Yeah. Recently, we've started working with a band called Too Many Teas, who are a hip hop duo from the UK. Some people might know. We also work with African Boy, who gets a lot of stuff on Six Music and things like that. Yep. And then we work with a lot of labels which you might not have heard of, but in their actual country, they're very, very big. Yeah, certainly some of the Indian artists, I imagine a lot of UK listeners won't know, but then they do millions and millions of streams in India. So people like Kailash Kher, for example, is a big kind of Bollywood artist that we work with.
Wow.
And it's really across the board. Yeah, really real big range of different types of artists. Yeah.
So as a distributor, you're focused on growing your distribution channels across China, India, and the African markets. Is it really so hard to get your music into those territories?
It's not necessarily that it's hard. I think, when we first went to India, which was about 6 years ago, for example, there really wasn't many other companies that were in that space at all. And certainly for independent artists, there was a couple of local distributors who were, quite frankly, charging quite a lot of money for their services. And we thought that it wasn't really that kind of that democratic. And so we really wanted to try and help those kind of independent artists in India to get their music out there, as well as for our current roster to get their music into India, because people like CD Baby and TuneCore, etc., they weren't there. So that's where we had a lot of value. The same with China as well. When we first got into those markets, we were one of the first companies to do those deals. And now I'm seeing that we've been one of the first companies also to start doing the deals with the streaming companies across Africa. So Boomplay, for example, has just signed the deal with Sony and with Warner. That's kind of been in the news. Well, we've had that deal for a while with them. We've already been kind of working with them for quite a while, and we get some really good support from them in terms of playlisting for our artists. So and they're also in India, actually, funnily enough, although they're based in Africa. They do some stuff in India. So
how much, I guess, let's say I'm a artist based out of LA. I'm using your service. I'm going through to India, and I mean, maybe just not the individual artist. How much are you seeing that kind of Western music, I guess, going through to India and China, compared to it coming the other way?
I think there's definitely more Western content going to India and to China than there is kind of coming back. But if you sit on a lot of panels and listen to a lot of kind of music industry people, we're really starting to see that shift in the UK as well. I mean, the fact that now artists such as BTS are so huge, and Korean music has really kind of infiltrated. Korean music's always been popular in places like China and India. And now we're kind of cottoning onto it. So I can see in the future that perhaps we will be listening to a hip hop track with an Indian rapper on it in the UK. It's the same with Latin America. That kind of movement has really come into the kind of UK market with, Justin Bieber doing those releases with the Latin American artists.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like if you asked people that maybe 5 years ago, I don't think they would have been able to foresee that those kind of trends would come in. But now I think because we've seen that the UK market has become a lot more open, or US as well, has become a lot more open to these different kind of sounds from different countries. I think it's highly possible that that kind of music from China and from, let's say, K-pop, K-pop, C-pop, J-pop, why not? Why not have some C-pop artists and Indian rappers and whatever? Yeah.
Do you get A-pop for African music?
Afrobeats, isn't it?
Oh, Afrobeats. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So I'll use the guy. I'm an artist based in LA. I'm on your platform, and my music's getting across India. Is that it? Like, is that how you sort of, is that how my music just gets out there? Do they just naturally going to pick up on it? Sort of, how are there language barriers, marketing barriers? Kind of talk me through, like, from an artist's point of view, what we're going to need to do for it to be a success.
Yeah, sure. I mean, like anything, like any kind of territory, there's thousands and thousands, if not actually more than there is in the UK, of tracks being released every single day. So the key really does come down to marketing, and getting your music into playlists is one of the biggest ways that we've seen people be able to kind of tap into that market. So we offer a bunch of different kind of marketing services. We do playlisting campaigns across Asia. Then we do one specifically just in India because, as I said, that's kind of one of our stronger markets. And then we also do them across Africa. And then in India specifically, we have kind of full market entry services. So we look at everything from playlisting to getting promotion on the DSPs, that maybe like banner ads and things like that, rather than just getting into a playlist, as well as PR. So, talking to people like Rolling Stone India, or the Music Essentials, which is a kind of dance music blog, and up to even newspapers if possible, the Times of India, etc. As well as looking at kind of online marketing and radio plugging, and then looking at the sync and live market as well. So the publishing industry in India is very, very small at the minute. So that's something that we've kind of tried to help grow and develop. So the IPRS has just been kind of reaffirmed back into CSAC, which means that it's now a legitimate organization. Whereas when we were in India, it was not so legitimate, shall we say. They actually got took to court. So yeah, so we can, because we've got a partnership with a registered Indian company out there, we can register works for the IPRS so that you can actually start collecting those royalties back, because trying to get them through PRS is a little bit more tricky.
Yeah. So I realize now I've got to get the marketing out there. You mentioned, like you said, across the different territory, breaking in new territory, radio play, playlists, getting on blogs, etc. So while you have that as a service, is that something that, for instance, banner ads, if I'm an artist, I pay that as a service to you, or is it like a shared? How does that kind of work? And if I am paying, what kind of budget do you think I should be looking at?
So yeah, I mean, there are kind of other things that we can kind of do for free as well. So for example, one of the things that we always say to our artists is, if you're going on tour or you're going somewhere new, like, let us know about it, because we can do so many more activations with the DSPs when people are actually in the territory. So if one of our artists is going on tour and they happen to be in India, if they let us know, then we can start talking to the DSPs there, and perhaps they can get them in to do things like this, to do radio interviews or have conversations with them. And then if they can, for example, one of our partners, Hungama in India, they will they have a massive following on their Facebook and Twitter, and they can get artists in to do shows at their kind of studios in their offices and all sorts of stuff, and then they'll do like Facebook Live interviews and things. So that can really help get you a lot of kind of followers and things like that.
Right. Okay. So it's really important to just let you know what's going on.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so that's one side of things. I mean, for the marketing that we're doing in India, that kind of package for the whole thing. So that's everything from looking at live opportunities, doing the sync, publishing registration, radio plugging, everything. We're actually only charging £1,000 for that. Which, when you consider you can pay just £1,000 for like PR, it's really reasonable kind of price.
So, is that a reflection though of the royalties you get back out? Because it's obviously a far larger market, but then that the cost of a download in the US is say 99 cents, but in India is it in rupees, it's like 70 rupees or something, which is the equivalent of 5 cents or something. Like, so does it end up working out about the same as the numbers, or how sort of, can you give some insight on that?
Yeah, I mean, you make a valid point in terms of, if you're looking at the streaming numbers and you're looking at download numbers, the cost of a subscription service in India to something like what Spotify is now in the market, I think. So we're paying £10 for Spotify, unless you're on a different kind of plan. The standard one's £10. The standard kind of plan for Spotify in India, I think, is the equivalent of like £3. So you can see there that the royalties are going to be a lot less. However, because of the amount of people there, if you can reach that amount of people and start creating a buzz, then, it's like the long tail theory. So those small amounts of money, if there's tons and tons of them, will add up to a lot of money. So, but also just to have the opportunity to go to a new territory and potentially, go out and play there, I think is what's the most exciting thing for artists, to go to a completely new country, find out about the place and go and play, and also just try and make a name for themselves, because sometimes for some reason the country that the artist is based in, the music just doesn't resonate with their home territory. But once it goes globally, you can find there's loads of artists who are huge in China, here like nobody really knows who they are, but they go to China, they're like mega superstars. And the same way, the other way around, So it's quite an interesting place to go anyway. And
like David Hasselhoff is massive in Germany,
right?
I mean, he's a famous actor, but as a musician, he's huge there. I've got another a group of friends who are a band who they do okay in the UK, but in Germany they're like treated like indie superstars.
That's it.
Same thing. They just no one's really into them here. So like we're talking a lot about India, I guess, and I know you've been based out there for 6 years. So when it comes to the China market, is it similar to India as far as numbers? And do you do the same kind of marketing services? Like, what's the difference there?
Yeah, so we don't have quite the same package that we do with that we do in India, because the package that we provide in India is also in collaboration with a company that's been based out in India for a long time. Right. They're like one of the only publishing companies that are available, basically, because it's such a small market, as I said, and they're fully independent. So it's good to have that collaboration between the two of us. So China is a little bit more difficult, but we do offer obviously the playlisting and the DSP marketing. So I've been out there and done all the deals with the platforms, and I've met all the people personally who are in charge of marketing. And one of the things that, whenever I'm talking to them, they always say is, if you've got some good music, it doesn't really matter kind of where they're from or what kind of genre it is. But the one thing that will really help is if the artists are here and they're going to play a show or something like that. And also what's different about China is that obviously their social media marketing is totally different to how you would run things in the UK. So, Facebook isn't in China.
Right.
Twitter isn't in China. So they have their own social media platforms which they use. So a lot of the streaming services are also actually a form of social media. So, for example, NetEase is kind of similar to the way that YouTube works, where you write comments on the videos. So they have videos and they have audio. And the way that you kind of gauge how popular a track is through the amount of comments that is written underneath that track. So therefore, you can create a profile on the streaming service and then message to your fans through the comments. So doing things like that and showing that you're engaging with the audience and you care about the Chinese market is really what will set you apart from a lot of other artists in that region.
And what's the language barrier like for, let's say you're talking about 30s and under as a demographic, are they, and let's say you don't speak any Mandarin, only English, are you able to still post stuff? Like, is the audience understanding English or not? Or is it 50-50? What's your...
So yeah, it's a good question, definitely. I mean, I don't have any ideas on ratios, but I know for a fact that it is a lot harder if you only speak English. However, the way that NetEase runs, for example, just one of the platforms that I'm talking about, they have a kind of like English backend for English and Western artists to use, which is written in English, and some of the fans will then see that you're an English artist, and if they speak English, they'll kind of engage that way. You know, if not, and they just kind of enjoy the music, I'm sure they can write some stuff in Mandarin anyway, and you know, use translations and whatever. But yeah, no, it is
okay. That's interesting. One. So if you maybe want to really get engaging with your fans in China, is find a I guess a media manager or a super fan who can speak English and Mandarin and kind of champion you as a representative.
That would be a really smart move, definitely. Yeah. And there are many different kind of social media companies out there that can kind of manage and help that for you.
Right. Okay. So are there, I mean, we've sort of talked about some of the, some of the ways you can get out there. What do you think are probably the biggest challenges though, once, let's say you've got on the platform, you're going out there for, and let's stick with Western artists, to go out there, like, what are the biggest challenges about growing your music fan base?
I think, one of the biggest challenges really is, as an independent artist, kind of having the budget to market yourself effectively. Because, you know, it used to be in the kind of good old bad old days that artists, you know, their only job was to create music. Now they're the music creators, they're normally their manager as well, they're their label, they're the booking agent, they're also the chief marketer, social media expert. You know, it's kind of having to do everything. And a lot of the time I think that artists forget that actually one of the key parts of releasing music is marketing. And it's a big key part of you as an artist. If you really want to kind of break through, you've really got to be strong at marketing your music, because there's just so much competition. You know, it's really nice because it's so democratic, and it means that, you know, everybody gets the same chance, and, you know, we don't kind of cherry pick who we work with. We allow anyone to sign up online, other than on the label services I mentioned. But we still give everyone that opportunity. But it does mean that there is a lot of music out there, because it's so easy to, you know, everyone's got Logic or Pro Tools or whatever on their kind of on their laptops, and you know, it's so easy to kind of make music and upload it and get it delivered everywhere. But to actually get it heard, the amount of people that are, you know, trying to release music, that's what's difficult. So I'm always saying you've got to put money into your marketing spend, into your music career. Like 100%. get a day job, get a part-time job, save money, drink less coffee, and use that money to promote yourself. I'm a big advocator. So with that in mind, and let's say, you know, moving away from just necessarily talking about the China, Indian, African markets, just talking about just general releasing music as an artist globally. You know, I've got a 3-track EP that I'm promoting. What sort of budget do you find someone needs to really put in to start getting some good traction? So I think, it depends obviously what kind of service that you're looking for, because there are lots of different ways that you can try and, promote your music. So you could look at doing a playlisting campaign, you could look at doing a PR campaign. Really, if you want to do kind of both, you're wanting, $2,000 is kind of a reasonably good budget, I would say. Because even to get on the playlists now, they want to see that you've got some PR, and so you kind of have to have both, really. We've got some kind of reasonably priced options for doing playlisting for global as well. So we do global campaigns, obviously, and then if you work with us on the label services, then the playlisting is included as part of the package. And we don't just go to the kind of just the streaming services. We also look at the independent curators on the different platforms. So people like Alex Rainbird on YouTube, or the Drunken Coconut, or wherever. Yep. So we've got a big database. The Nations on YouTube. We know those guys, so we can pitch to them as well. So
have you just got someone in house just sort of sitting there, just reviewing the music, saying, "Yep, this is going to be for these guys," and sending it off, and them to going, "Yep, this looks good. We'll upload it on release day," type thing?
So we have somebody who handles the kind of the custom music tools account, which is what we call it, the label services. So we only, as I said, we only work with certain people on that service. However, we also do offer playlisting campaigns for people who are maybe not on that package, but still want to pitch their music. So we review everything. We won't just take someone's money if we don't think we'll get any support for it, because that's wrong for us to do. It's not good for the artists, and it's not good for our relationship with the curators either, because they only want to hear good stuff. So
we've got about $2,000 budget that we'll be doing on marketing and PR, which is about $2,500 American dollars. And then that wouldn't include putting any paid advertising spend. How much do you think? I mean, I know how long's a piece of string. What would you recommend artists sort of want to spend on, like, boosting their posts and doing paid advertising on Instagram? Or do you even think it's worth it?
It's a good question. I mean, we've started to do some more marketing with actual Spotify and streaming services themselves. And I think that can have kind of more impact. So we work with a company called Future FM as well, who provide the smart links, and they can also do you can do paid for advertising through them for, I think it's sponsored songs, I think they call it, on 8 tracks and some other kind of streaming services. And then Spotify also has their kind of audio ads, which you can play on the free tier of Spotify. So their budget, you have to start with, it's 250 quid kind of minimum on their budget. And then if you work with us, then we charge a small admin fee of like 25 quid. So but
so just to talk people through
a lot of money there, or you can just go for the kind of minimum.
So sorry, just to go back on the Spotify ads. So that's someone, is it playing like a 30-second ad of your music between other people's songs that are on the free? Is that how that works? Or?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. So anybody who's on the free tier obviously has advertising on their account. And so you can kind of work with Spotify, and they'll create audio ads for you. So you pick the music in the background, you kind of target who you want to target. So you can target fans of a certain type of music. You can even target playlists that you think that your music should be in, for example. So
interesting.
Yeah, so people who like those playlists, you can kind of say, right, for fans of this playlist, and for males who are based in London, age 29, I want to play that, target those kind of people, and then they'll get the ads that surface, and I think they're non-skippable, so I think they have to kind of listen to it. So you can use those to either promote a show that you're doing, which is why you can pick a location. So if you've got a show, a headline London date, or I can't remember where your person that you were earlier was based. Was it LA? Was it? Yeah.
Yeah. He's in LA.
Show in LA somewhere. Yeah. I don't know LA that well. So yeah, they can target people in that area, saying, "Hey, I've got a show tonight. Check out my tunes. Buy tickets here," because obviously you can buy tickets.
That's very cool.
Yeah, or merchandise, or yes, there's lots of different ways that you can kind of interact with that.
I mean, maybe it's a bit early days, but do you think if you're paying that with Spotify, I know they've got their curated playlists. Do you think you're more likely to go past someone ears and eyes, or do you think it's just completely independent?
I would have to know how Spotify works in terms of, how their pitching tool
Yeah.
works. And from speaking to them, obviously, they like to say that they're very kind of democratic, and that's why they've built these pitching tools and things like that. I mean, if I was pitching to them, I would definitely mention that I'd already given them a fair bit of money in the pitch, just to see if that sweetens them up a bit.
Wink,
But
wink.
yeah, I don't know whether it would make a difference, but I'd mention it anyway if I was pitching.
Just checking through. What rookie mistakes or common problems do you see over and over again?
I would say the main problem that we see and rookie mistake would be people coming to us after the release is already out saying, hey, this release is out, I want to market it now. Because generally the majority of marketing takes place before the release. So,
Yep.
We want people to kind of be getting in touch with us saying, hey, I'm looking for some marketing like 6, maybe 8 weeks before the release date. So they've planned it in time. They've got loads of time to, if they want to set up these, Facebook sponsored posts or Twitter or with Spotify or whatever, they've got time to kind of promote things and be talking about the release beforehand, not just record it and then say, hey, it's done, I'm going to put it up tomorrow and nobody knows about it. That would be the biggest mistake that I see time and time again. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing how common that is. And I'm even working with a guy, and they've got an album coming out in about 2 weeks. And I was like, well, so what promotion are you doing? And he's like, oh, well, yeah, when it comes out, we're gonna. And I'm like, so you're not doing anything beforehand? He's like, no. And it's like, I kind of explained how important it was, and he's like, okay, well, yeah, I'll think about it. It's so weird. I don't understand why it's such a hard concept for artists to grasp.
Yeah, no, it is. It's a bit strange. But then also I understand it as well, because it's, once you've made something and you're just like really proud of it and you just want to get it out there like straight away because you just want it out there. You don't want to, have it sat, especially if you're writing all the time, because once you're like, oh, this is old news now I've got to promote it. Whereas I want to release this one that I've just recorded, but you're kind of still promoting the old one. And I can see why, but it's still like, yeah, it's just not the best way to market things for sure. I mean, having said that, with the Spotify ads, you actually can do that post-release. I would imagine.
Of course, there's plenty of stuff you can do post-release, and you should be doing stuff post-release.
Yeah, 100%.
With stuff pre-release as well. I mean, and I guess as well, that's why, like, I think you hit the nail on the head. Artists, they're creators. They just want to create. They don't necessarily want to have to do the marketing thing, which is why like label services and marketing services are so important if you're an independent artist.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, you don't have to necessarily have a budget of two grand if you can do it all yourself and you've got the time and you can actually, build relationships with curators if you're good at going out networking. But most artists, they're artists in the evening, during the day, they've got a day job. They're also kind of managing it. They're having to sort out their emails, and they just really don't have time to kind of manage all of that. And that's why it's good to outsource things and get people on your side, build your team up. You can still be an independent artist, but have a big team around you, have somebody who's kind of helping manage you, have people who can look after the PR side of things and do, get a really good producer, things like that. So, yeah, I mean, you can still be independent. You don't necessarily have to be signed to a label, but you do kind of need a team around you because to do everything yourself is just really, really difficult and too much. So.
And even if that is a paid team, like even if you're paying someone to manage your PR or doing your marketing, it's it's essential. So if we're moving on to kind of like selling music trends, you're probably in a very good position to sort of give some feedback on where you're finding record royalties are coming from in relation to Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Tidal, which ones are kind of the most popular? And I understand as well, it's probably going to depend on genre and territory. So if we were to sort of say, if we were at first to say like US, UK, I guess Australia, New Zealand, Western, you know, what are the platforms you think that had seemed to be doing really well in the last 6 months?
I'd say Spotify's still dominating,
Yeah.
for sure. That's kind of what we see. I mean, I remember maybe 2 or 3 years ago, iTunes was just the biggest thing ever. You know, probably longer than that actually. You know, when people still downloaded music, I don't know anyone who downloads anymore. And you know, iTunes have obviously just got kind of recently removed that facility. But iTunes used to be so big, and now obviously streaming is the dominant platform, and Spotify kind of, I would say, started that kind of that shift and that kind of movement. So therefore they are kind of still holding on as the sort of biggest platform in the West. But Amazon is really starting to creep up there. And I think that's mainly due to the fact that so many people have the Alexa smart devices.
Yes, I agree. I mean, in fact, you know, we've got Alexa device, and I'm often we'll just say, hey, play XYZ if we want to hear a song, and it plays. At the moment, it's connected to the Amazon Prime, whatever the Prime service is, is just part of it.
That's it, yeah. So anyone who pays for Amazon Prime has Amazon Music included. So that's not every single track. There's a lot of stuff on there that isn't on there, and so then
how does it actually work? How does that work? If I distribute to Amazon via your platform, is that getting on Amazon Prime or?
Yeah, so if you deliver to Amazon through us, it will be on. It's most likely going to definitely be on Unlimited. It might not be on Amazon Prime because they kind of select which kind of tracks they want. So some of the more obscure artists and obscure releases are often not on there, and that's kind of why they have like just basically the most popular artists. But if you want anything a little bit more left of field, you
underground,
kind of have to underground, yeah.
And is that something they're looking to change? Because so many people are getting these devices in their house and using them for playing music, you know, like, and you know, it's going to be an open market, I guess, for underground artists. Do you know if they're looking at doing that or?
I don't know. I mean, at the minute, that's their business model, that they want people to obviously upgrade and pay more money for their unlimited service so that they can get access to everything. So that's how their business model is currently working. Whether now there's been so many more devices that have been sold and they've kind of seen that spike, they may decide to change. I'm not sure. I do remember reading something recently in their kind of industry papers that they might be thinking about doing that soon. So I don't know, but yeah, you'd have to ask Amazon on that one.
So, and you were just mentioning low one is, yes, I mean, I don't really download music apart from downloading WAV files for doing DJs or DJ sets, but are people still downloading? Like, is it still a portion, or is it like 5% now and it's almost something not to worry about?
Yeah, no, I think you've brought up a good point there in terms of it does obviously depend on the genre. So in dance music, you know, downloading is still a massive thing. For other genres, I think most people nowadays are streaming. You know, actually, now I say Spotify is the biggest. Actually, it's probably YouTube is another kind of obviously huge way that people listen to music. Certainly in the kind of Asian markets and places like that, you know.
So and how if I'm distributing to YouTube, and let's say I don't have a YouTube channel and I want to distribute to YouTube via you, how does that sort of work? Or do I have to set up my own artist YouTube channel? And how does it get monetized? How do I actually sort of see revenue from that?
Yeah, so the way that it works with us is, so we send a stem of the audio to YouTube, which goes into their content ID management system, which basically means that, so obviously a WAV file has a kind of unique way that it flows. So that's kind of stored in their database. And if any video by any kind of user gets uploaded, which uses your music, they can match it through the way that the WAV file is and say, hang on a minute, you don't own the rights to this music, you've just uploaded this video, so I'm going to place adverts at the beginning of it, and then we'll collect revenue from the advertising revenue that's generated on that video. So that's the way that artists make money from YouTube. But then YouTube also has its own music streaming service. So therefore, that's why we deliver to their streaming service. And they will set up art tracks, so it'll use your artwork, and that will just appear. So you don't necessarily even have to have a YouTube channel. If you deliver through a distributor, then your music will still be sent to the art tracks and to Content ID for their streaming service.
Now, if I'm an artist and I'm reaching out to influencers who I want to use my music, I'm doing future-based music, which seems to be really popular with makeup artists and things like that. They're worried that my music they're going to get a copyright strike against them. How am I able to whitelist channels, and is that an easy process? Is that something you guys do?
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of artists that we work with who are very keen to work with YouTubers, and the Content ID system can sometimes become a bit of a hindrance there. So generally they will get in touch with us and say, obviously it's best to do it before release as well. Say, okay, these guys are likely to use my music. Can you whitelist their channel so that they can upload it with no problems? And also you should whitelist your own channels as well, so that you can upload your own music videos that you've created. Otherwise that'll be an issue, because basically YouTube it does it all automatically, of course. We'll just scan everything. So because we've delivered it, it will say that we own the rights or something like that, which is really poor wording on their behalf, because it's not true. It's just that we are the person that's delivered it, so we're seen as the rights owner. But once that kind of matches, it could match with your own channel. So we do get artists saying, "Oh, you've stolen my rights." And it's like, no, we haven't. It's just the YouTube system. So that can be another thing which artists get a bit confused about. But luckily, it's once we clear that up, they're okay about that, and it's easy to rectify. It's just a matter of whitelisting a channel.
Right.
But yeah, it's always important to kind of talk to us before these things happen, because obviously once your release is out there, then that's when it's like, people are panicked then, and it's like, the worst thing ever, because nobody wants to have a video that they wanted to upload and it not be able to. So as long as we know about these things before, we can get it sorted so that there's no issues once it goes out there.
Oh, that's really good to know. So going back to Spotify, and everyone is, it's all about getting on Spotify playlists. Everyone sort of wants to get on there.
Yeah.
What have you been finding works the best to get on those playlists? If you're
I would say, again, leaving good time for things. So, when before Spotify kind of made it more democratic and opened up their pitching tool, they would say to us that they want at least 2 weeks before the release date. So now they've kind of opened it up and they don't necessarily specify that. However, realistically, if somebody at Spotify is listening to every release that's coming through, do you think if you've submitted it the day before your release date, they're going to get a chance to listen to that, review it, look at it? I just don't see it.
Because I think officially you've got to do it a week beforehand at the moment.
Yeah, even a week. I just don't think that's long enough.
Yeah.
I heard a rumor that some kind of major labels were doing it like 6 months before to kind of activate some kind of algorithm in Spotify's system.
Right.
I don't know whether that's true, but it's interesting nonetheless.
You know what? I mean, I was speaking to someone earlier about this, and we were trying to think of, they're getting tens of thousands of submissions a day.
Yeah.
They don't have tens of thousands of people listening to that stuff. There must be some way of filtering. And yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Either they're using algorithms to look at keywords in the submission, or they just go, anything that is like, a month beforehand, they'll go, well, let's have a look at this, because they're going to have to cull it somehow, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. I think there are some kind of algorithms within there. So if I was being really cynical, I might say that they would look at how many streams the artist has already done before. So, that would be one way, because obviously on Spotify, you can see if anything is less than 1,000 streams. So, if you don't already have a kind of strong fan base, on Spotify's part, it's a big risk to kind of put an artist in there, even if the music is amazing. That's still kind of only one person's perspective. Whereas if it's already kind of tried and tested, and you can see that it's already doing a lot of streams and people are already like the music, then that's a much safer bet than placing an artist who's relatively unknown and has kind of no streams. So
Mm.
I would imagine there's some kind of filter in there that they would look at the number of streams that previous tracks have done. I would say that would be a logical kind of thing to do. Also, obviously, like you mentioned, the amount of time that it's been put into the system. And I wonder whether they've kind of got things like, if somebody's mentioned, because PR is a big thing, whether like if you put the fader in there, that flags up a system, or you put it's been in this blog, or Radio 1 or something like that, there could be those kind of keywords, but also genres and things like that. I don't know if it's a good idea to mention the kind of playlist that you think your music could work for as well.
When it comes to blogs and publications, do you think they're still relevant?
Yeah, I do. I think they still hold a lot of weight. I think the amount of people that read them is declining. However, therefore, if you're actually still managing to get into the blogs, because it is so competitive, that does still hold a lot of weight. Yeah.
Okay. And you guys have got your own internal PR, I guess, team, is that right?
So for the PR side of things, we use an external company that we kind of recommend, because many of our labels have kind of used them, because that was one of the things that I found is PR is such a difficult one, and they charge a lot of money, and people can easily get ripped off. People just say, oh yeah, you pay up front as well. No guaranteed results. Yeah. And that's the thing, you can't guarantee results, because at the end of the day, it's down to the curators. It's down to the people who are writing the blogs, whether they want to feature it or not. So, I've heard of cases where, people will just take artist money for the sake of taking money and not really do any work. And so that's kind of why I wanted to find somebody that I kind of knew and that we trusted and we knew could do it.
Are they based? Are you allowed to say who they are?
They're called Bills PR. They're based in Brighton.
Bills, yeah,
or the Bills agency.
Bills PR.
Yeah, so it's one of our labels who'd worked with them and was massively bigging them up to me. So I thought, okay, well, that's I'll take that, and yeah.
Nice. I was going to ask about paid advertising, what you use, but I mean, as distributors, it's not something I noticed you sort of so much touch on. But from a social media point of view, which platforms do you find are getting the best results for the artists and labels you're working with, like YouTube, SoundCloud, Facebook? What sort of feedback are you getting?
So we've got to deal with Facebook and delivering kind of like music to their system, and we've got a few sort of like we've done quite a few different paid for campaigns for us and for some of our artists on Facebook. So that's the main one that we use. So that's kind of the only one that I could kind of comment on, really, because that's the kind of main one.
So how does the Facebook deal work with you submitting music? Like, and how are Facebook using that music?
So again, obviously on Facebook you can upload videos. So it's very similar to how YouTube works. So that if somebody uses uploads their own kind of video of an art with your artist music on, then they will track it and then pay back royalties through. So it's kind of like another kind of content ID system, as does SoundCloud, where you can upload your own kind of mixes and things like that. You could potentially be using other artists' music. So therefore, now they obviously have the advertisements in place. You can get revenue back through that. So yeah, the content ID kind of stuff. So there's Facebook, YouTube, as you mentioned, and SoundCloud. They're the main ones that kind of offer that. Yeah.
And the rare sync deals, do you work with syncing agencies or is that something left more to the artists and labels?
Interesting question, actually. So that's a kind of area that we haven't really got involved with at the minute, because we have a separate publishing company.
Right.
So they're called Anara Publishing, so they kind of deal with that side of things. However, we're actually very excitingly in the process of setting up a Horus music publishing. So watch this space on that one, and it should be announced soon.
Wow! So that leads perfectly into my next question, which is what is the future? So you mentioned you're setting up publishing, and I know you've set up in Africa. What else is happening in the next sort of 12 months?
I think just continuing kind of expanding really. Latin America will be the kind of final kind of place that we'll look at. It's already, become such a huge market, and I think it's a really interesting place. So yeah, that'll be the kind of the next place that we sort of look to set up in. But obviously we've still got a few other territories to kind of find the right people and get things kind of kicking off there. So yeah, China, South Korea, and Nigeria will be keeping us busy for a little while.
Excellent. Well, Nina, thank you so much for your time. That has been super duper insightful.
No problem,
is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think that's good. I hope there's been some kind of useful information there for people. And obviously, if anyone is interested in anything I've said, they can feel free to reach out to me or reach out to the company or whatever.
Awesome. Yeah. And it is www.horusmusic.global. Where you can find you guys. Awesome. Well, thank you again for your time, Nina.
No problem. Thanks for having me on.
Until next time.
Appreciate it. Cheers. Bye.